SSH, your credentials, your host name, all that stuff is right there. And we're going to be doing these hacks together, hopefully, if the system can actually handle this many people. We've never tried with this many before.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you have any questions at any point during the presentation, raise your hand, and we will hook you up with answers. Close? Are we ready to?
Yeah. Okay.
There. You have to pull that really hard. Okay, so I guess we're going to go ahead and get started.
Alright, hey everyone, I'm Manuel, and today we're going to be talking about the anatomy of hacking, or the fundamentals of exploitation. So let me start off by, Kevin, does the clicky thing work?
I'm Damon Smith, by the way, VP Corporate of ComSoc, in case anyone doesn't know me. Clicky thing, no clicky?
Yes. Okay. So let me start off by saying, please don't rate on our presentation. It's our first time doing this. We kind of want to do this more interactive stuff every other week next semester. Here's a little thunderbolt. Don't use things like WAL, don't DDR drives, don't RM critical files. Just please don't do anything wrong or unethical. So welcome to Hades. Today we're going to be breaking into Tartarus, which is the city of the dead, where people receive punishment. So that's going to be the theme for our presentation today. And if you haven't already, could you please SSH in and follow along, logging in with root at hades.utcomsoc.org. Has everyone done that? Just want to? Good. Okay. So there are 5 steps to exploiting a machine. So we first start off with information gathering, and with the information we gather, we then try to find any vulnerabilities that might exist on that machine. After we find those vulnerabilities, we want to exploit the machine, and then move to post-exploitation, and then maintaining our access to that box. So information gathering today, what we're going to be doing is port scanning. So certain services that run on a machine will also have like a public-facing port on an IP, and we're going to be detecting those ports and those services using a tool called Nmap, or Network Mapper. Some relevant flags for those Linux users are -O, which is OS fingerprinting, SV, which is version detection, PN, which is treat all hosts as online. Sometimes Windows firewalls like to block ping probes. And SU, which is UDP scanning. It's not all services run over TCP. But the one we'll be using today is -A, which is aggressive mode, which enables OS detection, version scanning, skip scanning, and tracer route by default. So this is the first interactive portion of our presentation. This is the command we'll be executing.
We actually missed the very first command.
Did we? What was it?
MSF console.
Darn.
Yeah.
Okay, so first you want to start off with Metasploit. In your terminals, everyone run MSF console.
No way.
And it does take a while to start up, so don't be freaked out. It's probably working. It just takes a little bit of time, especially since we have like X number of people on the server right now.
So does everyone know what Metasploit is? So Metasploit is a penetration testing framework. It's a program that is used specifically to exploit into machines. It seems very black hat, but it has very noble purposes. Do you have anything to add to that?
So Metasploit is, a lot of people think it's a hacker tool, but I'm here to tell you those people are all incorrect. It is a framework for developing hacker tools. The cool thing about Metasploit are the things that it includes. It includes such things as, if you want to target your exploit at a particular FTP service, you don't have to know the underlying protocol. How do you connect to an FTP server? How do you authenticate? All of that garbage. You just say connect. And based on the fact that it is an FTP module, it automatically implements all of the FTP connect routines. And Metasploit does all of this behind the scenes, completely transparent to the exploit designer and to the user, which makes it an incredibly powerful tool for developing your own exploits very rapidly and very robustly. Another thing about developing your exploits on Metasploit is that you can interchange payloads without having to like completely just redo everything. If you've ever designed exploits before, which I know many of you haven't, that's fine. You have to find your exploit, figure out how to actually perform the exploit, and then you have to figure out what you're going to do with it. That's what's called the payload. So you can own the server, you can run your own code on it, but what code do you run? That's where Metasploit comes in. It has a bunch of payloads already built in, and as long as you define your exploit correctly, it will automatically insert those payloads into your exploit and run them for you. If all of this just sounds like jargon, don't worry, we're going to be going over a lot of these concepts later, but for those of you out there that are already developing exploits or really into security, you should take a look at developing exploits on Metasploit. So
what's insane about Metasploit is also the community. Like Jagor in the back over there, he actually has a Metasploit tool,
Watch this.
a Metasploit module.
Oh, that's Jagor right there. He wrote that module.
And it's published, and it's amazing. Okay, the thing is, that Nmap right there, that Prometheus.
Metasploit is actually here in town as well.
Yes. And Rapid7, the company that does most of the development and I guess owns the trademarks for Metasploit, is also an Austin-based company. Pretty cool. So we're like the hub of security for the whole world. I don't know. We also have TrustWave, so.
No, I'm actually pretty good friends with HP, so.
Okay, so there's no like rivalry going on or anything?
On a corporate level, yes.
Okay.
The sad thing is, y'all can't execute that Nmap command because you're scanning the entire subnet, and that might be way too network intensive.
So there are some commands that I'm going to execute that we would prefer it if you didn't execute them, just because they put so much strain on our resources that if everyone does them simultaneously, it will probably just crash. So if you've already done it, don't worry, we're not going to like call the FBI or anything. But I will make it very clear if you should not execute a command, and if I say so, please don't. Thank you. So I'm just going to go ahead and execute this command, which is, now while Metasploit does have the ability to use its own internal Nmap engine, it's actually kind of buggy and frequently just doesn't work. So we're just going to make a call out to the external Nmap, which, like we discussed earlier, is a network mapper. It is meant for discovering what computers are on a given network and what kind of services they're running. So let me go ahead and, I probably should have typed this in before I did that long explanation, but. Oh, and we know what address we're scanning because we already have an IP address within this block. So we're just going to go ahead and start that Nmap. It is going to take a little bit of time, so I guess we could move on to the next slide. Or do we just want to?
How does Nmap work?
So basically, there are a lot of different ways Nmap can work, but what it's trying to do is see. It just basically sequentially goes through a list of ports. Is port 1 open? Is port 2 open? Etc. It actually randomizes it a little bit, but just for the sake of argument, let's say it goes sequentially. It tries to connect to that port. If it receives a response back, it's like, oh, cool, that port's open. And then we'll go deeper and try to figure out what's running on that port. And then we'll go even deeper and try to figure out what version of what is running on that port. Metasploit can grab an incredible amount of information. It can even try to guess what operating system the remote computer is running. Pretty cool. It uses a lot of really interesting, so we've already actually found some open ports. Like we found an SSH server, which is actually running on the system that we are on, so it's not that interesting, unfortunately. But if we give it enough time, it will definitely find some more interesting stuff. So do we have any questions or comments so far? Okay, so this tool takes a while to run, so we're just going to kind of chill. Yes, Richard?
Is this tool very noisy on the network?
This tool is incredibly noisy. If you try to do this on the UT network, those two guys will come and kick down your door and put you in handcuffs. And then they'll teach you how to lockpick your way out of them. I don't know. But seriously, we actually had an individual associated with our club who will remain nameless do this particular thing against public internet IP addresses and got us banned from the internet. All of ComSoc was banned from the internet because one person decided to do this against a large group of computers on the internet. He wasn't actually trying to hack them, he was trying to find his computer that he lost. But anyways, it looks like this is actually completed, so.
Oh, I do not know. How does one scroll in GNOME terminal?
Page up? No.
Control Shift.
Oh, there we go, that's cute. Derp. Okay, so this is an interesting computer because number one, it's not my computer, and number two, it has a lot of ports open, so that's very interesting. And as you can see, based on some of the ports it has open, it's pretty obvious that it's a Microsoft Windows machine. It actually is guessing that this is a Microsoft Vista machine, but I can actually tell you that it's not, but it's a pretty close guess. It's Windows 7, so they're similar enough, I guess. So now that we have run this, Metasploit has a really great functionality called it is a database that it uses, I guess.
Really quick though, here's the IP address of Prometheus if you want to Nmap and just see the output of what it outputs.
So you can go ahead and run the nmap command against just that IP address if you want to do the port scan yourself, just to kind of get a feel for how nmap works and see some of the flags that you need to do. But I'm just going to go ahead and import this information into our database. So let me show you a little bit about the internal database that Metasploit uses. So we can type in, I was close. We can type in hosts and get a list of hosts that it has discovered on the network. That needs to go to the top. Hosts, and that's a list of hosts that is discovered on the network with a little bit of basic information about them. If we want a broader overview of all of the services that are running on those machines, we can type in services. It'll give us a nice list. Now, sometimes that can get kind of big, so you might actually want to search for a given host's services, like that, for instance. Now we can see everything that our target is running. You can see it's running SSH, which could be interesting because it's a Windows computer. Why is it running SSH? And it's running some RPC stuff. That's pretty normal for Windows. It's running remote desktop. Could be fun. And a few other things that we don't really care that much about. So next, we have to figure out what can we do with this information.
So that's kind of interesting there, Damon. We have, under the info thing, it's like we only do SSH.
Yeah, what is that all about?
Yeah. So why don't we go ahead and try to find something relevant to that?
Let's see. Not Facebook. How to log in Facebook? Come on. Okay, so as soon as we search for that exact string that nmap gave us, oh look, a remote authentication bypass exploit happens to be the first result in Google. How handy. So like, this is obviously not a piece of software you need to be installing on your computer in case you were thinking about it. But wow, this is actually really like embarrassingly easy. But anyways, yeah, this is more or less just a proof of concept confirming that this is in fact vulnerable. So we know that the service they're running is vulnerable. Now let's see if Metasploit knows anything about it. Or do you want to talk?
So what were you using there, that website?
Yeah, so this website is called exploitdb. I actually found it through Google, but it's actually a pretty awesome website in its own right. It gives you the ability to search pretty verbosely for anything your target could be running. You can text search, you can select a platform, like let's call it Windows, and you can also, if you put the author as Metasploit, only search for things that include Metasploit modules. I don't know if you guys can read this, but I'll just basically tell you what it says, I guess. And so let's look at Windows exploits that have Metasploit modules and see what they have. So I'll give you a hint, there is a lot because it's Windows. So these are all exploits that you could actually conduct using the Metasploit framework, just like right out of the box, no trickery or really no intelligence required, it just sort of works.
The really cool thing is, if you actually use that exploitdb module that you found and search for it on Rapid7 or the Metasploit website, they will show you a screenshot of how exactly to run that exploit, showing you how to set up the options and the payloads for them. And CVE list is really cool because it gives you more detailed information on what the exploit actually works on. And it gives you, I think, the version number for the service and just more detailed information on the exploit.
Well, we're not going to look at the Metasploit website because apparently it's broken right now.
Am I connected to the internet?
I think we are quite connected to the internet, but for whatever reason, that website isn't working. But trust us, it's a good website. Normally, when it's working.
Okay. So now we move on to the fun part. We have found a module, a Metasploit module that we want to use to exploit this machine.
By the way, it does have tab complete, the whole Metasploit console thing, so you don't have to type out all of these commands exactly, just do tab complete. And if you don't know what that is, you start typing a command, you push tab, it figures out the rest of it for you. Pretty awesome.
So while he's doing this, there are different kinds of exploitation. The one that we're doing right now is remote exploitation. Metasploit is a really amazing tool for that. We do cover other exploitation methods in our other presentations, like network exploitation, where we do web cracking, WPA, WPA2, ARP spoofing. There's some pretty neat tools for that too, like EvilGrade. Does Metasploit do network stuff?
Metasploit does, yes.
Okay. And web exploitation, which Damon and I have been getting into recently, using Burp Suite, SQL Map, and Dirbuster. Pretty great trinity there, effective.
We will be posting these slides, by the way, so don't worry about missing important information.
So if you want to do the exploit yourself, you can run these commands right here.
So you can just
There we go.
follow along with me, and don't forget, raise your hand if you get lost or if I'm going too fast, and we will take care of it. So I've already selected which exploit I'm going to use using the use exploit command, which, as I stated previously, does support tag completion. And it's actually laid out kind of like a file system. So inside the exploit directory, there's Linux, there's Windows, there's even Apple iOS, because I guess they have exploits for that. And within the Windows directory, there's services, so like you could look for FTP or SSH, which is what we're using in this case. And then inside the SSH directory, we find the free SSHD off bypass, which is what we found earlier from the exploit database. So we've got to go ahead and get that guy loaded up using the use command, and let's see what sort of parameters we have to give this exploit. In order for an exploit to be successful, it needs certain information. Obviously, we're going to have to set the rhost parameter, which you can see up here is blank. You can kind of see it. It's kind of doesn't fit on the screen, but what are you going to do? And we're going to have to set that to our remote host, which was 192.168.66.15. So let's see the rest of the options. So it doesn't actually apparently require any other options. However, we do need to set the payload to be a particular payload. So payload is basically, after we've done the exploit, what do we start doing? There are a ton of payloads, but in my mind at least, the best payload is what's called a Meterpreter shell. So I'm going to go ahead and load that up, and we'll tell you a little bit about Meterpreter once we've got one running.
Hold on really quick. Does anyone have any trouble so far? Any questions? Any problems getting to this point?
How many people are following along, just for my curiosity? Wow, okay, cool. So we got the payload set up, so let's just go ahead and see if that requires any options. So it looks like it requires lhost, which is localhost. So we need to give it our host name, which can easily be had from ifconfig. By the way, any standard Linux command you type into Metasploit that isn't part of the Metasploit will just get executed as a Linux command. So if you want to run, cat, or if you want to run ifconfig, or whatever you want to run, it just passes it right on through. So our local address is right there. So I'm just actually going to go ahead and copy paste that because why not? And we're going to set lhost equal to that. And this next part is going to be a bit tricky just because we're doing a demo. So we have the L port thing right there. The problem is if anyone in here uses the same L port as someone else, you can't both do it at the same time. So one of you is not going to get it to work. So try really hard to instantiate a random number generator in your mind and come up with a completely random port that no one else is going to be using.
64.
It has to be above like 1020. No, it actually doesn't really have to be above that, so that's fine. So I'm actually going to use that port. Can anyone tell me why I'm using that port?
It's the elite port.
Thank you. Just thought I'd, So after we set up all of the options, it's pretty simple. We just say exploit and we pray that our demo works. So we're uploading the payload. This basically means we found the exploit service, we figured out that it is vulnerable, and we are sending information to it and hoping that it works. It says it may take several minutes, and it's definitely not kidding. Let me go ahead and move that up so you guys can see it. It may take several minutes, and with all of us doing it simultaneously, it may take a lot of several minutes, but we'll see what goes on. We'll see. I think we have more slides now while this is running.
So what Damon's exploiting right now, but let's move on to post-exploitation. What can we do with that? So Metasploit actually has pretty great post-exploitation modules, specifically ones regarding gathering, reconnaissance, managing your post-exploitation, and privilege escalation.
You guys.
Yeah, come on, don't
do it. Don't do it. We had a plea earlier. Let's try to be cool.
Don't rain on our presentation.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay.
We understand your lead and you can use wall, but still.
All right. So here's our Meterpreter shell. So now we want to figure out who we actually are on this box.
Administrator.
Okay. That
That's
doesn't
nice.
seem very.
Can we do better?
I think so. Let's try that.
Meterpreter has got us covered with a nice little command called git system. And, oh look, now I'm running as the system user. It is literally that easy. Point, click, hack.
So that's a root shell. You get that box is yours, basically.
I actually have more control over that box than the person who's using it right now.
All right. So now we move on to the reconnaissance phase. So we have one box, but we want to conquer all of Rome, not just a city. So let's go ahead and run ifconfig. Let's see who else is on this network.
So ifconfig is a really great way to figure out what subnet am I on, do I see any other interesting subnets, and already I see something that's very interesting. It is a completely different network from the one that I'm currently on, but the machine that I just hacked into is on this new network. That seems pretty cool. I wonder if there are any other machines on that network that I might be able to own. Let's find out.
Oh, sorry. Okay. This is your thing.
Oh, okay. So since we're currently running in an interpreter shell, and now we actually want to run Metasploit commands, we have to background the existing shell, which, if any of you are familiar with a bash terminal, it's like Control-Z. It's just like, I don't want to bother with you right now, but I'll come back later. And we're actually going to run some of what are called post-exploitation modules, which is, like, if you think exploits are cool, post-exploitation modules are just as cool, if not more so. So post windows gather hash dump is the one that we're going to be using today. And let's see if it has any options we need to set. It needs to know a session number. So we list session numbers by typing in sessions. We have one, and its ID is 1. I don't know if everyone can see that. Is that too low, or can people see that? Is that okay? Yeah, I'll move it up a little bit, but. Okay, so we're going to set G, which means set this thing globally, so we don't have to keep setting it over and over. We're going to set the session equal to 1. And show options, I'm pretty sure that was the only one. It was. One thing that's kind of weird, if you're running an exploit, you have to type the command exploit. If you're running a module, which is basically anything other than an exploit, you have to type run. I don't know, I didn't make it up. But.
So this tool, hashdump, basically when you log on to a system, you don't want other people knowing your password, or you don't want it to be easily retrievable. So what the operating system does is it takes your clear text password that you enter in when you log in on Windows, and then it hashes it so no one else knows what it is.
Who knows what a hash function is, by the way? Right, quite a few people. Okay, it's pretty good.
So basically with hashdump, we're saying all the hashes of all the users that have logged into this box.
And while hashes are supposedly a one-way function, Windows actually uses an incredibly bad hashing algorithm called landman hashes. It actually breaks up your passwords into 8-character chunks and upcases them. So if I was brute forcing and checking your password, I only have to take 8 characters at a time, and I only have to check uppercase. So that makes it like stupid fast for me to get your password from this hash. However, let's say, I don't know, we've got to go to the gym in 5 minutes and we don't actually have time to brute force this person's hash. What can we do with just a hash?
Dude, we could pass the hash.
Pass a hash? You mean like puff puff pass?
No.
What do you mean? What's pass the hash?
So instead of actually using our clear text password to authenticate with the system, we're going to give it a hash. So the system itself doesn't know that we're not inputting the right password, but it knows that we have the right hash, which is just as good.
It is. I mean, you can't authenticate with a hash, so who needs a password? But, we actually, before we do that, we need to cover the routing, pivoting stuff.
So we actually, I don't know if Damon showed you, but we copied and saved the hash of the administrator on that account.
Did I save it? I hope I saved it. I did save it. Okay. So you can go ahead and put that in your clipboard or whatever your particular environment supports.
Did we lose those people who were following us?
Is anyone still following? Okay. Does anyone want us to catch up? Anything? Does anybody want to get unlost? Are we all pretty good where we're at? Yeah.
I don't know if I missed it, like the hash dump failed ending because I didn't get an SSH.
Did you run the hash dump the same way we did?
I think so.
Okay, and what was the output?
Something wrong
Can you just turn it and I'll...
Sorry, what was your problem?
Okay, so you actually have to become the system user first. So you have to resume your session by typing session -I1, just like on the board.
Okay.
And that will resume your session, and then just type git sys, and that will escalate your privileges. You can't dump hashes unless you're the system user. Very important thing to remember.
This is
I'm getting a failure to validate L ports.
Do you want to?
Yeah.
You have to set your L port to a unique number. Have you done that?
Basically, that is
Oh, so that's random and it's still not working?
think what happened here is
Oh, you don't do an IP address, only the port. Yep. Okay, so is everyone caught up that wants to be caught up? Or I guess Richard's helping some people and...
I'm caught up.
Okay, yeah, you're caught up?
Yeah.
You're doing it with your mind, like
Yes.
wirelessly? Cool.
Exactly.
So, I think we're covering auto route. What is that all about?
So now we have that entire subnet thing, and we want to get on their network, but we
Wanna see
actually
what's up
aren't
here.
associated with them at all.
So if I background this, I can try to ping. Whoops.
So we have those, we had the various types of exploitation, and we want to be a part of this network, so we can, so it's easier for us to get into the other boxes on the same network. So AutoRoute helps us do that. It helps us associate with that network, so we become a box on that network.
How did you know what the subnet was?
That was actually, let me go back to our session here. So we're all very familiar with our interpreter session. By the way, if you want to resume it, wow, sessions. I'm not even able to type it correctly, so don't even worry if you're having trouble, because I can't even do it. Sessions-I1. What that means is I want to look at my sessions, but then I want to interact with the session. That's the -I, and that session number is 1. If you don't know the session number, you just type in sessions, and since there's only 1, we just do session-I 1, and we're back to interpreter.
Could you do session-I just straight up?
You can, actually, and interestingly enough, it actually just shows you your session list. I mean, it could connect to the only session, but I don't know, I didn't write it. And the way we found out about the new subnet is we looked at ifconfig, and we saw that it actually has an interface configured on this new subnet that we don't have access to, but the computer that we just owned, which by the way, all of you own this computer now, pretty cool, you can do whatever you want with it, it's your computer now. But we actually have...
Don't say that, Damon.
I mean, yeah, it is their computer.
Well, be nice for the presentation.
Okay. But anyways, that's where we found out about this new subnet, and I'm really curious what's on that subnet. I really want to go exploring, but I can't access it. But I have to respond to ARP requests. So, how are we going to do that? Lost my place on my note. There it is. So, show options. Let's set the R hosts. Notice it's plural this time, so it's expecting more than one host. And we're going to set it to the new subnet that we've just discovered. And we're just going to go ahead and run it and see who might be on that subnet.
And so what does this do?
This does what's called an ARP scan, which basically, does anyone know about ARP from our ARP spoofing presentation? So ARP is sort of the mapping between an IP address and a MAC address, and what I'm doing is I'm asking who has this IP address? What is the MAC address associated with it? And in order to actually function on a network, they have to reply to that packet. So using that, I should, in theory, be able to find who's on this network relatively quickly, and even if they have a very strong firewall. Although I am at present not finding anything, which has me very worried that we didn't start up one of the VMs.
Pretty sure Taurus is right.
Oh, you found it? Okay. Then I guess we just have to wait for potentially a non-polynomial amount of time.
What was the IP of Taurus?
I have a
Set your subnet
20.
earlier to the...
Is it 20?
Oh,
I have a
yeah,
10 and a
so-
20.
You may have set it to the bottom.
But 10 is the first machine.
What was it, 10, that's
Oh,
66?
okay.
Yeah.
Probably 20.
I think you
What
did
was the-
60.
So
I have a 10 and a 20.
I actually may have screwed it up, so.
the subnet that's not the same.
Really? Is that, did I?
That's the typo on the slide. I think.
You put 0.0.
Oh, so it's actually, that has to do with like how subnets work, which is a very complicated talk that we could probably spend an entire lecture talking about how ridiculous it is. But for the purposes of this demonstration, just assume that what I have is what is equivalent to what's on the slide. Good catch, because technically I did not actually do what I was supposed to do, but they are equivalent because subnets are crazy. Don't even worry about it, they're just completely crazy and they don't make any sense.
They're actually pretty straightforward. with some
Well,
access and everything.
yeah, I mean, if you've done a lot of drugs, then they're straightforward. Where's the Windows gathering. I'm just messing with you, don't. I think they're crazy though.
You could alternatively just use Taurus as IP if it's taken.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely.
Whoa, Gerard.
That's bad.
Whoa.
Our original box that we pwned just might have gone down. I hope someone didn't shut it down. Did anyone else lose their original shell? Huh. I guess we'll have to re-exploit that, so we'll have to think on our feet. The box went down, what do? You just try the exploit again because they probably didn't patch it, they just restarted their computer or something. So let's use.
How many people are on Prometheus right now?
10. There's like 10 people.
There's 10 people?
I see.
Giving the gifts of knowledge, I say.
Sorry if I'm going a little fast. I'm just trying to
Catch back up.
Yeah, catch back up. Oh. Hopefully this will work. Okay, so we are getting our shell back. Unfortunately, sometimes shells just crash. They are not made perfectly. You are basically injecting code into a process that really doesn't want your code injected into it. And sometimes Windows will catch it with data execution prevention. Sometimes the application that you've injected into, because of your hack, will become unstable and just crash. So these are things that happen with shells. These are things that happen with exploits. Sometimes they just don't work. Sometimes you're trying to pop a shell on a box and you end up just crashing the whole thing, which is cool in its own right, but wasn't your original goal. So these are just sort of the things you have to deal with, unfortunately.
You need to run auto-route again?
Yes.
Sorry, this is our first time doing it again. I don't think these machines were meant to handle 10 people exploiting
I missed
at
the session.
once.
Oh, I need a new session. I'm getting Richard syndrome, in case any of you are familiar with that.
It's very contagious.
Okay, so hopefully we should have a new route. And we were doing ARP scanning, but I'm actually just going to assume ARP scanning works because that guy says it works. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to port scanning. So one thing about AutoRoute is it doesn't actually connect the computer we are using to the new network. It just means that you can funnel any Metasploit modules you use through the computer that you own into the new network. So we can't use InMap. We have to use Metasploit modules. But fortunately, Metasploit, once again, comes to the rescue by having a port scanner built in. It's not the flashiest and it's not the best port scanner in the world, but it will definitely get the job done. So we're going to set the R host to the machine that we discovered, which was 10.66.60. What was it, Alex? 20. Okay. And I believe that's the only option we need. So let's go ahead and try running that module. And not very fast either, but it does get the job done.
So our hosts, so that means you can do more than one?
You can definitely do more than one. You can specify a net block using the -24 notation that some of you might be familiar with. I think you might be able to specify a range, like if you want to scan 192.168.60.1 through 24 or something like that. There's a lot of things you can do, and the best part about this whole presentation is we're going to leave this machine online until midnight tonight, and you guys, as soon as this presentation is over, can destroy it as much as you want. Try not to destroy it just in case other people are wanting to play with it as well. Try to be respectful of other people trying to play with it. But yeah, you can try all sorts of exploits. You can scan the network. You can just play with Metasploit. Do whatever you want. So we do have a few results from our port scan. So
what are we hoping to see?
We were hoping to see 139 and 135. Those are the Windows file and printer sharing RPC magic ports. Basically, that means I can send commands to those ports that I want the operating system to execute. And fortunately for us, the server we're interested in targeting doesn't have any firewalls on those ports. However, I know because I set it up that the server we're attacking is a fully patched Windows 2008 R2 box. There's probably not going to be any exploits to it. I mean, it is a server. They are meant to be secure. However, we got that hash earlier.
Right, so we can authenticate this.
We can pass the hash to this guy. So I'm going to show you how to set up a quick pass the hash.
What is SMB, Dan?
SMB stands for the server message block. That is the, oh my, held down the enter key a little bit too long. That is the way that Windows clients send messages to other Windows servers, like opening files, or I want to run this command, etc. I'm kind of glossing over a lot of the finer points here, but basically it's just how Windows clients communicate with each other across the network.
So it's remote file access?
It is remote file access, remote printer access, a bunch of other stuff.
Okay.
And it's pretty much always running, and it pretty much never firewalled.
Of course. Yeah.
So we're going to use a module called psexec, and let me show you the info for that. By the way, you can type info for any module, and it will show you. And your terminal is probably not as bloated as mine, so you can actually read it. So basically, this module, if you have a valid username and password, or password hash, then you can do whatever you want on the computer. So this isn't really even an exploit. This is, we know the password and we're doing stuff on the computer. Fortunately for us, it is so kind as to allow us to use a password hash instead of a password. So let's go ahead and set that up. We're going to set the username to be administrator, which is the hash that we got from the other computer. Did I just lose my SSH connection? Oh, no, it was just really slow.
Do you still
False
have it in
alarm.
the clipboard?
What?
You still have it in the clipboard, right?
Yes, I hope. So we're also going to set the SMB password to whatever's in my clipboard, which
Nice.
looks legitimate. So let's show the options. One thing that is very important to note about this is we are not actually on the same network as the computer we're attacking. Traditionally, Metasploit will connect back to the attacker. But since we're not on the same network as that machine, that's just not going to work, because if he tries to connect back to us, it's simply not possible. So instead, we are going to set our payload to be something else. We can still use Metasploit, don't worry. But, oh wow, yeah, I'm doing good, I'm doing good. And we're going to use, oh Lord, that's a lot. There's a lot of payloads, guys. We're going to use the Meterpreter bind TCP, which means that instead of connecting back to the attacker, it just listens for a connection, and I connect to it. So, cool stuff. Let me show the options here. Okay, we already got those. So the L port, that's the port that it's listening on. This is the same issue as before. If any of you are using the same port, this exploit won't work. So if you want to make sure this exploit works and you actually want to explore this final machine in our presentation today, you're going to need to set your L port to something random and creative that's not going to collide with anyone else in this room. I know that's asking a lot, but do your best. Let's set the L port to, I don't know. That's too high, isn't it? Nope. No, that should be good.
That's
And
too high.
you're also-
That's
is
too
it?
high.
655.
65,000.
No, that should work.
That's 600.
Yeah, that totally works.
600. No, yeah, that is 600.
I believe it will automatically fill in the R host for me, so not too worried about that. Let's just see what happens. We'll go ahead and exploit. And apparently I do have to fill in my host name because Metasploit is incapable of running the IF config command. Oh wait, that's our host, isn't it? So I'm incapable of using Metasploit. That's a lot more accurate. I just didn't see that there is in fact an R host way up there. So we do have to set that, guys. We're not off the hook yet. Oh, it's actually port 445 that we're using. I lied to you earlier. But generally, if you see 139, if you see 135, you're gonna see 445. They're all, you know, they always run together, I guess. Let's go ahead and set our R host to 10, 66, 60, 20, right? Okay, and we're going to go ahead and try this exploit, hopefully. And now I have it set L port correctly. 60, 60, 60?
It's 606,000.
Yeah.
No, it's 65,535.
Yeah,
but you're 600,000.
Oh, wow, I had way too many digits, guys.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my. Okay, we're uploading the payload. It says we're authenticated. That's pretty awesome because we don't know what the password is, but we just used it to connect to this computer and run whatever we want. So let's make sure that this actually works. Look, Meterpreter session. And who am I? I am nobody, apparently.
You are no one.
There we go. I am the system user on the server. This is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. This is us downloading all the credit card numbers from this payment processor. This is us owning a website. This is us stealing medical information. Whatever was your original goal, we are now on the server, so you've pretty much accomplished it.
Try running help.
Help.
Look at how
Help
ridiculous
is pretty
this
good.
is.
Yeah, it has so much stuff just built into it. Like, watch this please. Like
Recording
webcam
night,
snap. That's a pretty
webcam
good one.
snaps.
I've seen people with tape
Screenshots.
over their webcam. This is why. Because I could totally take pictures of anyone. I don't think I would want to.
Probably.
Also, it has a built-in keylogger that key scan
It
start,
does.
key scan stop.
Oh, key scan start.
Well, no one's inputting.
Yeah, no one's actually typing on the computer, so this is a very uninteresting thing to do, unfortunately. But it does work. It totally works. And it has, I mean, just look at the help file yourselves, guys. It has so much cool stuff you can do in Meterpreter. That is why it is the only shell you really need to consider using, let's be honest. And it also enables the use of all of these really cool post-exploitation modules. So let's look at some of the options that we have for Windows post-exploitation. So we've got keyloggers bypass UAC. So everyone thought, oh yeah, UAC will totally keep my computer secure. Look, there is a module called bypass UAC. It just does it. That's what it does. And we've got our good old friend Git system. We've got one that's called screen unlock. If you really like that one, you know what that one does. So if someone walks away from their computer and locks it, you know, you can't get in without knowing their password. If I run this module, it overwrites the memory of the process that is running the lock screen so that it will accept any password. So I run this module, and then I walk up to the computer, type any password I want, and I log in as whoever had the computer locked.
Only 32-bit machines.
It only currently works on 32-bit machines, but if we have any developers out there, it'd be really cool to port it to 64-bit machines, just saying. It works in theory, it's just no one has actually done the work yet to get it to work.
What's the Bitcoin jacket?
So that steals their Bitcoin wallet. Yeah, it just finds their Bitcoin wallet and steals it, and it becomes your Bitcoin wallet. So, pretty cool stuff. Like, there are just so many things. It kind of boggles the mind, all of the stuff. See if there's anything other interesting.
Steam.
Oh, it's Steam?
We have,
So it'll steal your Steam user account? That's
wait,
We've known it for years.
that actually wouldn't work though. If you have security enabled. Unless you get into their password.
Not all of these exploits, modules, payloads, whatever, work all of the time. Sometimes there are bugs. It just happens. You know, this is mostly a community-driven project. The nice thing is, if you find a way to improve one of these modules, or if you can fix a bug in one of these modules, they are very receptive to receiving your patches and potentially crediting you if it's a really good one. So let's see what other kind of cool stuff we have. So we can enumerate files. We can enumerate other computers that are on the same network as them. I mean, that would be really good for recon. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to like subject you guys to me just tabbing through all of these. I'll let you guys do it. How many people actually have a shell open to something? Anything at all? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish, 6-ish in the 6.5 or something? Okay. I think what we should do now, I mean, this is pretty much it for the presentation.
Right.
How about we kind of stick around, and anyone who wants to get a shell that wasn't able to get one can come and talk to us one-on-one, and we'll teach you how. Anyone that wants to learn more? Yes, Tom.
Where are we going after this?
We usually go to Double Dave's right after this meeting and eat. You should come with us there. We are going to leave these systems online until midnight. As long as you remember that username and password to get on, you can do whatever until midnight. Then we're cutting it off. And we are like we're burning the computer. It's gone forever. It's actually a VN and we're just deleting it. But anyways, let other people have fun. You know, don't shut down systems or anything. But outside of that, anything goes. Trying out exploits, figuring out what you can do with these tools, whatever you want to do. Really? What? I assumed that was you guys.
Not me.
Well, pretty cool actually. Whoever did that, you should take credit because that's pretty cool. Anyways.
So, what about the security on the system? Don't do anything outside of...
So, I tried really hard to make sure that you can't do anything bad from this system to the rest of the world. The only thing, in theory, that can get through our firewall are incoming SSH connections. But I'm not a perfect person, and whoever designed our firewall probably isn't perfect either. So if you find a way to get out of the system, just don't use it. Like, don't go sending spam emails or like, I don't know, making presidential threats or something. Just don't do it, okay? Be cool. Just be cool. Is that you, Johan? That is you, Johan. Wow.
What?
Yeah, why is that? Why do you have that window open? Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed it, and we are going to leave the system up, and I encourage all of you to come with us to Double Days. I'll take a few more questions before we break, though.
Oh, I have one thing to
Oh,
say.
a comment?
No, something after. You finish.
Something after we
Yeah.
finish? Okay, any questions, comments? Anyone think this is really cool and want to try getting their own shells? We have like a few people that think this is really cool. Okay, that's good. That's what we like to see. I hope all of you enjoyed it. I've been Damon Smith. That is Manuel Philipose. And that is Richard Pinchorn, the president. So give it up for him.
Oh, no, give it up to you. So before the meeting's officially over, I just want to say, if you want to get involved with this club, you think this stuff is really cool, top-notch, you want to expand your knowledge in it, we're actually going to be having our officer elections May 1st, which is, I guess, 2 weeks from now?
It's removed.
Oh my god. So I deleted AppKit so that people wouldn't be installing packages. And I deleted DD. And, oh, what was the other? If you tried to...
Deleted
Oh yeah, if you try to do shutdown...
So...
What?
User gains.
User gains. Oh. What, you? Oh, user? Okay.
User site.
What is
USR.
Okay, well you said user, not... Okay.
User.
I should have known. I should have known.
How thing?
I don't even know what that's all about.
Oh, yeah, thinks instead of does. So anyways, so we're gonna have officer elections. If you haven't signed up for the hackathon, the sign-up form's online.
Oh, wow, fail.
And after that, I believe there's no other announcement.
Like I said, this was our first time doing it, and it could definitely have gone a lot smoother.
It could have gone so much worse, let's be honest.
Yeah, that's true. We spent a couple of days setting up the VMs, and we had a lot of
I actually
trouble
printed my escape here.
with setting up the episodes and having them work properly. But if you have any feedback, we would
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Especially if you thought this was really cool and you want to keep doing cool stuff like this. So we actually do the exploit with you instead of just telling you about it.
Right. We want to do this like every other week next semester.
So our plan right now is basically we have the academic session on the first Monday, and then the next Monday after, whatever we taught you about, I said Monday, why did I say Monday? Wednesday. So Wednesday here, we teach you about an exploit. Wednesday here, we do it together. All of us get a root shell or whatever. So we're thinking of an alternating pattern of learning about exploits and actually utilizing exploits. How does that sound to you? Would that be something people would go to if we did it?
Yeah, the idea of being weekly meetings.
It is going to be weekly. Like, we teach you about the exploit this week, we do the exploit this week.
Oh, okay. Not like it is now.
Yeah.
And definitely a lot more
structured.
informal
Yeah.
from this.
Well, yeah, more
Informal but structured.
more put together. Like, this is our first time doing this. We've obviously learned a lot from putting this on, and yeah.
Alan seemed pretty structured to me.
That's good to hear.
Damon.
Yeah.
TrustWave.
Oh, the guys at TrustWave are in the back. They're a local Austin area security company. They're
Actually,
really
we're based out
awesome.
of Chicago. We have
You have an office here.
an office here. We have about 1,100 people worldwide. So the stuff that you're doing here is really interesting. That's sort of where we start. So we actually have 2 positions open right now, plus an internship for the summer. The team I lead is called Spider Labs. We are the Black Hat speakers, the DEF CON speakers. I spoke at RSA this year. I think 3/4 of the team has spoken at least one Black Hat conference. We are very much into the offensive side of security, but what we also do, we have an incident response organization within Spider Labs as well that I manage that actually handles when things go horribly wrong. And we're actually talking about Metasploit being a hacker tool. We see the entire gambit there, but when you read about a breach in, say, the New York Times, it's about a 50% likelihood that TrustWave did the forensics investigation.
They will be back for a tech talk. So if you guys like what they're talking about, they're going to be giving a whole spiel, probably like 30, 45 minutes, and they'll be looking for people to recruit as well. So if you're interested in security positions, we will be announcing the tech talk over the email. We'll be putting flyers up. We haven't actually worked out the details yet because, booking a room and all that jazz. But they will be coming back. They will be talking about really interesting stuff, and they will be looking to potentially hire you. So definitely worth showing up to that and telling your friends about it.
It's also worth noting that we actually have jobs in Austin, which makes us different than about 95% of the security folks out there.
I guess that's
All right,
it. If
thanks.
anyone else has anything else before we adjourn? Okay.
Thank you.
Guys. And these are the notes that I was following. They'll be going up on the website along with the